spreading the news.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
New York, I love you. I love New York.
Rose trying to get open, fires away. Bang! It's over! The Bulls win at the buzzer! Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James! LeBron James with the rejection. Puts up the three. Won't go. Rebound box. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang!
What's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Off the Ball podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron. And if you just saw me just a few hours ago, I was on the live show talking to Dexter Henry of the New York Post. We got into all things Summer League, talked about the Knicks' new head coach and how the system can benefit the New York Knicks going forward. But you know what? I said, you know what? I still want to talk about the Knicks. I still want to talk about the Summer League. First game of the Summer League for the Knicks is tonight. And who better to have on a guy who I just had, I think, last week you were on the show, Lee?
Yeah, a week or two ago. Yeah.
Week and a half ago. And, you know, we had talked about the, Dink Pate, which a lot of people were very intrigued about, So, but my guy Lee, what's going on, man?
Double blessings to you, brother. Good to be back, man. Chop it up, talking hoops, talking Knicks. The first one was so fun. We had to run it back and do it again. So here we are on the first day of Knicks Summer League.
Yeah, the first day of the Knicks Summer League. I had to get you back on the pod to talk about it. So let's get right into it. A lot to be excited about just for the Knicks season period, but a lot to get excited about for the Summer League team because a lot of these guys are going to be integral parts of this Knicks team for 25-26, in which it's a championship, caliber, team. So let's get right into it. Let's kind of talk about a lot of these guys individually. And I want to start with this guy first because I feel like he is the most important piece. I know this Pacome Dadier, who's important because he's a first round pick, but I think this guy is very vital. And I talked about the detector, and I thought he was the most important player in Summer League, and that's Tyler Kolek. They took Tyler Kolek last year in the second round. I think his play is going to dictate a lot because we need valuable, important minutes played when JB is out. That was something that hurt us last year, and I think they're really monitoring the backup point guard position because they're still probably in the market potentially for another ball handling guard. So I think Tyler Kolek is going to be watched very closely this Summer League. I think there's a couple things we need to see. Can he improve his strength getting to his spots, and does the shot go down? If you saw some of his G League stuff, I think he was around 19 and 10, but the splits weren't great. Shot under 40% from the field, under 30% from three. So Lee, Tyler Kolek, let's talk about him, man.
Tyler Kolek, for those old heads who remember White Man Can't Jump, a.k.a. Billy Hoyle. I'm a fan of Kolek. I was not part of the Hive that was clamoring for him to get rotation minutes last year. There were a lot of delusional Knicks fans that were saying free Tyler Kolek in place of a great defender like Cameron Payne or DeLon Wright, who I thought were better guarding the pick and roll, better on the perimeter and switches ball screens. Kolek was a cone, and there was no need for him to play last season as part of the rotation, and especially no need for him to play in the playoffs. It's one of the metrics I look at if I'm interested in talking ball with someone is that they were clamoring for Tyler Kolek to play legitimate playoff minutes in his rookie season. To me, is absurd. But in terms of Summer League, I would say he's definitely top three. Other players I'm interested in seeing, maybe number one, number two. The shooting stuff I'm not so worried about. Finishing around the rim, I am concerned with. The mid-range and traffic, the mid-range against physical defense, as you mentioned, is something I'm going to keep an eye on. But the three-point shot, I think most three-point shots that he's going to get when he plays spot minutes, because that's what I'm predicting he's going to get this season, is spot mans under Mike Brown. I do not think he will be a part of the rotation. I think that 3 ball is going to be wide open for him in those minutes that he gets, whether that's garbage time or as a sub right before halftime for Jalen Brunson. I'm not really worried about the shot. I think the shot is Steve Nash-esque. I think he can even become a movement shooter based on the mechanics of what I saw in the G League last year. But I don't think he's going to be a primary part of the rotation. I think Deuce is probably going to get an upgrade this season with the exit of Campaign to be able to be more of a ball handler and a playmaker for others. That's, I think, the part of Deuce's game that the coaching staff and the front office cares the most to see an improvement on, which leaves Kolek out of the rotation. But it doesn't leave him out of the rotation for Summer League because this group of guys, a group that has rarely played with each other, if not at all, is going to need a connector, someone who can get everybody involved and easy opportunities within sets. We don't see a great preview of what Mike Brown's going to run because I'm sure he's going to funnel that to the Summer League team. Just maybe some basic foundational pieces on offense. Kolek is going to be supremely vital to making sure that the bigs get opportunities for lobs and transitions, that the wings are getting fed on cuts, and that he is setting small to small screens, which was a mantelpiece for Brown's dribble handoff system in Sacramento, is small to small screen. So I need to see him doing some of that for guys like McCullough or some of the other young dudes that we have on this roster. I want to see him do the dirty work and do the non-on-ball action that helps other guys get easier opportunities. So we know what the passing is. We know what the court vision is. And I think we know what the sturdiness and crunch time is as well. Anytime in Summer League, when I saw him play, I was never worried about the Knicks losing because he was just a demon in crunch time. And I love that about him. But the defense, to me, the lateral quickness, not getting lost in rotation, can that be something that consistently happens this Summer League? Because this is a very good group of rookies. This is not last year's rookie class. This is an exceptional rookie class all the way through the first round and even the start of the second round. So he's going to be up against a much higher level of competition this Summer League than he was last. And I think there's going to be a level of bullseye on his back to really hunt him in ball screens. Opposing teams are going to be going after him on defense. So how does he handle getting put in the blender? That's what I'm most interested in seeing from Tyler Kolek.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's how he handles that pressure. But like you said, he's gonna have he's gonna have a bunch of horses around him. Like he's gonna have an abundance of athletes, and that's something we haven't had. You know, we weren't a great athletic team, and now that he has, Najee, and he's gonna have Pacome, and he's gonna have Dink. He has some athletes. Diawara, another one. So that the passing display, I'm definitely not worried about that. Like I said, the shooting. If that goes down, that might get the Knicks being like, okay, maybe we can trust him more than we did last year. If that shot goes down, he gets to his spots. I feel like the Knicks brass will feel comfortable about it. But what do you think exactly we need to see from him tonight? Or obviously, listen, Summer League, we're going to overreact. Like we always do, whether a player gets good or bad. But what do you want to see tonight from him exactly?
Sharp reads, because a lot of these guys are going to be very nervous. Guys who have never played at this level before. So getting guys like James Najee, good looks. And some of the other bigs that are on this roster, the French kid, getting him acclimated when he shares the floor with him, making sure he hits 1, 2 or clean looks from the perimeter for open threes. So smart reads, number one. And then how do you handle the pressure of being hunted on defense? Does it affect your ability to be a playmaker and have energy on the offensive end because of how much time you're spent having a guard on switches, which is going to happen this game? So endurance, what kind of basketball shape are you in? How does your mental be affected by now being seen as a weak point within the defensive scheme? Because as you mentioned, the athletes this time around, we have really solid defenders at the 2, 3, and especially 4, 5 on the Summer League team. But the one is going to be the point of emphasis, I think, to really attack through the opposing team's point of attack. And I think it's going to be Tyler Kolek on the wrong end of that. So how does he handle that pressure, both mentally and fatigue-wise, while also maintaining the strengths, which is hitting the open three, find guys on lobs? I mean, really, he's already our best lob thrower on this roster, so he needs to maintain that and get guys when they're in the dunker spot or on the break to get easy looks around the rim to get the team into flow and get guys confident.
Yeah, and like you mentioned before, finishing. Can he be creative enough to finish? Because if you could figure that out, that'll be good. And also, like you mentioned, is how does he handle getting attacked? And how does that help his endurance throughout the game? Does that affect his offense when he's getting picked on? So the couple things we're looking forward to see with him today. But let's go to the first round pick. Let's go to Pacome Dadier. Obviously, we didn't see much of him last year. He was the first round pick. I mentioned this a lot. Teams love those 6'8" guys who got the plus wingspan. So and I thought he was more of a project type player, but there's a lot of expectations with him. And like I mentioned, we're in win now mode. We're in championship mode. So what are your expectations of him? And do you kind of worry with, because of the mentality being it's win now mode, that maybe that can maybe hurt his development? Because I always felt like he's a project player. Like it's going to take him a few years before we get to actually see what he is. But we're in win now mode. Do we have the patience for him to keep being in developmental mode when we need him to be ready now? But there's a world where he's not ready. So how do we handle that?
That's a really intelligent framing of that question. I haven't heard that asked before in terms of where we are in our championship progress right now. To answer it, I would say yes and no. I think he's already ready on paper to attack closeouts and hit open threes, which I think could eventually transition to a Sam Hauser role with potentially deeper upside defensively in a year or two, not this season, but maybe 1 or 2 seasons. He could be that spark plug off the bench where he comes in 12 minutes for a game, 4 minutes in the first, maybe 8 minutes in the second, where he's buying some bench spark. I don't know if he's ever going to be, I don't think he's ever going to be a starter. And I don't think he's ever going to be a sixth man, but I think he can be a pinch role player where you have a team that maybe isn't good guarding on the perimeter, and he can come in and attack closeouts and get to the rim maybe 1 or 2 times a game, and then stretch the defense with his 3 ball. But in summer league, I need to see a higher motor. I think that's been the thing I've been least impressed with Pacome Dadier, with the other French guys that were drafted along with him, specifically Richeshire, who shocked me with how aggressive he played in Atlanta, and also how awesome he was defending, navigating ball screens and defending ball handlers on the perimeter, keeping them going east to west, opposed to north to south, was probably the thing I was most impressed with him. And his French compatriot didn't show that in the opportunities that he was given in the G League in very small NBA minutes. We know we can shoot. On paper, he's like the hyperbolic 3-and-D prototype that everyone talks about and writes articles about, but I haven't seen that put into action. I haven't really seen him use his size to his advantage. He still seems to be getting used to his body, similar to Dink Pate, and he's not using that level of size, strength, and wingspan to his advantage yet, and knowing how to utilize it against mismatches. So just being aggressive, and when you have the opportunity to attack a closeout, attack it and try to draw the foul with your physicality as well. Of all the draft picks that we had last year, he's the one that I'm the most worried about not reaching full potential, specifically because he was an actual first-round pick. And I think the front office, Walt Perrin specifically, saw a huge upside in him. We have a very dense international scouting team, and I think there was a lot of promise in him being the first-round pick, opposed to the other 3 being a second round. But I haven't really seen him live up to expectations. McCullough can guard the 1 through 4. That Hot Porty is an elite athlete at the 5, and Tyler Kolek is an elite floor leader at the 1. I don't know what Pacome Dadier is elite at. Is he just kind of average or slightly below average at everything? I don't know. We haven't really seen enough of a sample size for me to make a really strong proclamation on that. But I am worried about him, and I think he has the most to prove of any one player this summer league to show that when he is given minutes in Mike Brown's extended rotation, he earns them.
Well, what was your thought process when they made the selection last year? Were you high on him, or were you kind of like me, where you're like, this is I don't really understand this select. That was my mind frame. I had him in like the 40s range, because I thought he's a project, like he needs time, and I was kind of surprised that they would take such a project.
Well, as I mentioned to start the show, last year's draft was considerably weaker than this one. The entire first round of the 2025 NBA draft had rotational pieces ready. And I would say the start of the second round did as well, which is, to me, is one of the most talented groups of kids in a very long time. So last year, at 26 or 27, wherever he ended up picking. I know we traded back or forward to get him. I wasn't too concerned about it because
we traded back. Yeah.
Everyone after like 16, I thought had an element of project to them, or they were really good at one thing and then need a lot of work in other areas, specifically defense. But Tom Dottie had upside on both ends of the court. That was kind of like his promise, is that he can be a switchable two-way player at the 3 or maybe the 4. But I just haven't seen that level of aggressiveness getting to his spots in the mid-range and pulling up with confidence, hitting that, which then allows for the rest of the defense to center on him and then play and make to get others involved off of that action. I haven't seen that at all. And that all comes from confidence. So I'm not too worried at where he was picked in terms of last year's draft, because I thought it was a weak draft overall. I'd agree with you. I think he's a project, but I also am placing the most emphasis and expectations on him in tonight's game and throughout the summer league.
Yeah, he's someone I'm definitely looking a lot to see if he can make those, see if he's really good at one thing. Like I said, we don't need him to be, this dominant player. We just need him to be good at, a couple things. So I'm looking forward to see how he progresses, because he did some good things in the G League, but still, what is that one thing that's really going to stand out? We don't need him to be like that. We don't need him to be great at everything, but can he stand out on one thing? That's to be, that's for, we'll see what happens.
There's not a whole lot of commentary or scouting reports on him having a broken jumper or not having fluid movement. That all of those, in terms of like the eye test, most scouts are pretty high on him, like already kind of having some high levels of fundamentals. I would say the same thing about Tyler Kolek. It's just the aggressiveness. The NBA is a different beast. This is the league for a reason. And in order to stay, you have to be willing to do two things: achieve greatness under high amounts of pressure and be able to do the dirty work. And I haven't seen him do either yet. So, my eyes are on him. I got that side eye emoji on him right now, but I'm hoping he delivers. Luckily, we have some depth at that position.
Yeah. But, he's still young. He's still trying to figure things out, adjusting to, the game here. So we'll see what happens, but definitely someone, he's a first round pick. So there's going to be expectations with that alone, but there's gonna be expectations for him because, there's, we are in a win now mode, and, we need, if his development continues and we get some type of progression, that's going to be a big bonus, coming off the bench. All right. Mentioned this guy before, but he was the last pick in last year's draft. That's Ariel Hukporti. We saw him get some minutes last year, was productive in those minutes. I didn't think, he would be that productive in the limited minutes he was playing, went down late in the season, but Ariel Hukporti is going to be, he's someone that I had on the draft radar for a while. Hukporti, like he's been around, and, we took him late, gave him a chance, and, made Jericho Sims disposable. We wanted to moving him, because it felt like they have trusted him. So what are the expectations in year 2 for Ariel Hukporti? What do you want to see from him? Just tell me what do you think he makes another leap?
No, but I think what he already was is good enough. I think the standing
high floor, right? High floor.
Yes, high floor and almost no ceiling, in my opinion, which is not a knock on him because you need those type of guys on your roster. But I mean, the standing reach, the lateral movement, the potential for rim protection as a stationary 5, I think are very high for him, and those are all floor attributes. And I think the athleticism we saw on him as a shot blocker, as a weak side defender, as a rim runner, excellent. Like those are type of things that we wanted from Precious. Precious didn't have the coordination or the offensive awareness to be that consistently. And I think Hukporti can. Of the 4 rookies that we drafted last year and of everyone on this current summer league squad, I think Hukporti has the greatest chance to actually be a part of Mike Brown's rotation. But in order to do so, I think we're going to need to see a little bit more stretchability. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 3, but some type of shot like Isaiah Hartenstein had with that push shot in the mid-range that is a go-to move for him in traffic. That he needs to develop that, because they're going to collapse and build a wall on him to try to make life difficulty with him as a potential lob threat. So to create some type of variance and go-to move when the free throw line in is going to be crucial. And then also improving as a screen setter and a dribble handoff 5 or 4, depending on what position he's played, is going to be crucial in Mike Brown's system as well. Because Brown really he prioritizes spacing, he prioritizes off-ball movements, and your bigs better set good screens, and they better give crisp dribble handoffs. So I think that's going to be a big part of his game, in allowing for Mitch to get some rest, or even pairing him with Mitch, and Mitch trying to be more the rim protector, and he's initiating some of the action at the elbow or on the perimeter, is going to be a part of him elevating his role, not necessarily taking a jump game-wise, but being really a part of a system and depend on part in the COD and that front court rotation. And I think he can do that. He's probably the one I'm worried about the least, and the one that I'm expecting to have a real impact. Knock on wood, he stays healthy this season. How he got the injury and how soon he got it with minimal playing time was a little worrisome last year, but I'm hoping he bounces back with Casey Smith and the medical staff, and he shows he can be a real threat, two-way threat for Mike Brown.
Yeah, and in this offense with Mike Brown, he likes to work his bigs a lot of the pinch post, and I think will benefit Ariel Hukporti a lot, expanding his game more. So, and I think he's going to make that. Like I said, I'm not worried about. And you mentioned before, and a couple people said like they don't know that there's much ceiling, but the floor is good. That's good, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I agree 100%. Like I think he's going to be solid, and we will see a little bit more of his game. I'm hoping to see, especially defensively, more discipline as a shot blocker. Not now fouls. Sometimes there was a lot of fouls, quick fouls, 2 fouls, quick. Let's see if he helps with let's see if he improved that aspect of his game too. But I'm like I said, I'm with you. I'm not too worried about it. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to look, I wouldn't say dominant, but he's going to look like he belongs for sure. And we're like, all right, he's locked up. He might not even play much in the summer league. I feel confident in that aspect.
I think about the Indiana Pacers and the way that Rick Carlisle used Obi Toppin where Tom Thibodeau did not. And I wouldn't call myself a Tibbs defender, but I wasn't a hater either. But it's one thing that one of his biggest flaws, in my opinion, was underutilizing Obi. Once Obi got to Indiana, it wasn't just fast court, transition, outlet passes, or advanced passes from Tyrese Halliburton and dunks. It was utilizing Obi as a cutter, right, on the baseline. And not just on the baseline, but also in the dunker spot, finding him for those easy, quick lobs that really add 2 more points to a deficit, right? We got to utilize Ariel Hukporti in the same way. Now, that's outside of his control. That's going to be Mike Brown really emphasizing our guards. This is Jalen Brunson included, Miles McBride included, and if Tyler Cole's a part of the rotation, and Jordan Clarkson, find Ariel. Because once you do, and you throw that ball up there, it's like Mitchell Robinson. How do you stop that level of athleticism and strength that close to the rim? It's very hard. Those are the high percentage shots that Mike Brown really emphasized in Sacramento, along with the open threes through off-ball movement and curls that accentuate your offense becoming the best in the NBA. And I think that's how Ariel Hukporti, more than becoming a stretch 5 or a stretch 4 or operating as a hub at the free throw line, those things are all bonuses. But at the baseline, utilize him as a lob threat and a backdoor cutter, because I think Ariel Hukporti showed he's not a standstill player. He will move around to wear out his defender and try to get open. You've got to find him. That's what Indiana did with Obi Toppin.
I agree with you 100%, man. I agree with you. That's why there's a lot of excitement with me with Coach Brown being the head coach now, because there's just so much more offensive fluidity we're going to see that we have seen in some years. Like I said, I love what Tibbs did. I'm so grateful that he made us relevant again, because it was down years. But I understand the pivot. And we needed to expand the offense. And I think Mike Brown, there's going to be a lot of beneficiaries of the Mike Brown offense. So looking forward to that. All right, let's talk about a few more guys. Let's talk about Kevin McCullough. 6'6", can score, but like a lot of these other guys, what's the biggest thing? The outside shooting. But he could play some defense. Showed that especially in his last year at Kansas. Limited action last year with the big club. Only played like 3-4 games with us with the big club. But showed some good scoring at G League. But like I said, the outside shot just wasn't there. So what are we looking forward to Kevin McCullough? Because I don't think he has a guaranteed spot, so he's trying to vie for like a 2-way spot here. So what are your expectations for Kevin McCullough?
Man, I don't know if I have any because I barely saw him play last year.
Yeah, only four. Let me see how many games. Only 4 games with the Knicks, and he played some in the G League. But they said the shooting splits were great.
Right. This is kind of the one where you have to just lean on hypotheticals and good vibes. At 6'6" and 200 pounds, you're assuming he can guard the point of attack, the two, the three, maybe even fours, depending on the team matchup and who's across from him. But
At Kansas, we did it at Kansas.
yes, and at Kansas, he had a below 100 defensive rating. It was like 98 or 97, which was like leading the NCAA. That's a really incredible number, even guarding against college players, not NBA players. But that's an incredible stat to have, regardless. So I think he's going to have a role. He might end up being the Keon Ellis for Mike Brown, someone who's kind of in and out of the rotation, and the fans are clamoring for him to play more. But
that's a good comp. I see that.
The consistency on shooting might keep him from being, a consistent player, because you're having to balance and stagger his lack of spacing with Josh Hart, with Jordan Clarkson, with Mitchell Robinson, all of which hurt the spacing already.
Yeah.
We're one of the teams that probably has the least amount of pure shooting on it, period. And the two guys that don't shoot enough, in Brunson and Cat. So it's going to be hard for him, not necessarily to find a niche, but to find a consistent role, unless all of a sudden he comes out of training camp with a heater on his arm. Then maybe I think the opportunity for him to crack the rotation would be stronger at that moment than Patom Dadiat, because of a defensive upside. If he had a three ball, just a catch and shoot three ball would be enough, I think, for him to be the 10th or 11th guy in Mike Brown's system. But we haven't seen that, and we haven't seen enough of him yet. But on paper, man, it's archetypal for sure.
Yeah, the shooting has to be at least solid. Like right now, it's below. It's not even average. It's not even below average. It's bad. So we need to see an uptick. Because like I said, we don't have enough shooting for us to be like, you know what, he could play defense. He's big. All right, we'll just leave him there and we'll be all right. We don't have, like you just mentioned, we have a lot of non-shooters, especially off the bench. So we can't have another non-shooter. That's why I still think maybe that last roster spot. I know there's not a lot of shooters left. They might try to find a shooter, or that have to be something at the deadline where they try to get another shooter, because that could come down and bite us. But he's someone like, the shooting did get better the last few years at Kansas, but still not, the numbers weren't great. But he's gonna have I think it's gonna be tough for him. It's gonna be tough for him. Like I said, we haven't seen much of him. He's been banged up a lot. So I mean, he has the size and everything you want in a wing, can guard most positions, but can the shot, can he hit the shot? Can he hit some catch and shoot shots? Will we see that? That's gonna be something I'm looking for. But Kolek being there he's gonna get a lot of good looks. Are they gonna go down? So he's intriguing. He's intriguing because if he doesn't have a good shooting display, I could see them moving on from him. So
That's a great point. I think his role with the team is probably the most dependent on his performance in summer league, more than anybody else. Anyone else being outside of the bubble, right? I consider him inside the bubble as of now. But I think if he shows not a poor showing defensively, because I think that's going to maintain, that's his calling card, and he's actually a pretty solid rebounder, and I would say secondary facilitator, more in like the hockey assists than someone who has really good reads. But at that three ball, in exactly what you said, not off the dribble above the break, but catch and shoot three balls. If that doesn't fall and he shoots below 35%, I think they're going to move off him and give that two-way to someone else. Maybe it's Dink Pate or somebody else. Maybe it's James Najee. I don't know. But they need to show that year over year he's getting better. And there was incremental growth from his freshman, sophomore, and junior seasons. At the last one in Kansas, where he shot at 45% from the field overall in his junior year. But that, to me, that's not enough at the NBA level for the type of role he's going to play. It's unfortunate he landed on a team that has two guys that play very similar in terms of inefficient basketball, and Josh Hart and Jordan Clarkson. It's going to be super tough for him to crack the rotation. His flaws are going to be magnified because he's sharing the court with people who shoot in the same places as him.
Yeah. And the next guy I'm going to talk about is eerily similar in size and was on the team for a little bit last year, and a former first round pick by the Milwaukee Bucks. And that's Marjon Beauchamp. He's another guy similar in size, bounced around a little bit. What are we feeling about Marjon? Do we think do you have any expectations? He's another one where he needs the shot to go down. I think his calling card is shooting, hit the catch and shoot guy. And if that's not it, I mentioned this with Dex. He could be battling for his NBA life because he's already been on a lot of teams and he hasn't cracked enough minutes to be like, and yeah, he's still young and a lot of people bring that up, but there's a lot the league is influx with young guys that 24 is old. In NBA in this generation, it's old, it's oldish, so like, hey man, we might have to he's battling for his life. So I'm interested to see what we get for him. I don't have any expectations of him making a roster, but I am intrigued a little bit if the shooting does come around. Because like I said, we do need shooting. And if he can show, because there's times where he's shown he could be an okay shooter. Then there's time. It's just the inconsistency. So any expectations with Beauchamp? Because like I said, former first round pick, has talent, but it just feels like his development has been ever since the G League days. It hasn't been great. Like,
I'll start this off with a positive. Congratulations on linking up with Dexter Henry, a great friend of the KOT channel. Dexter has great taste on the people that he brings on the show. I'm not saying that just because I've been on the show a few times.
yeah.
But my boy Chris LeBron.
I'll be on the show Sunday. I'm looking forward to. Yeah, he's a good dude, man. He's a good
Chris
dude.
LeBron definitely knows ball. So Dexter Henry has a good eye for talent if he's bringing you on the show. Here's a negative. Marjan Beauchamp is cooked. I have absolutely no expectations for him. I do not think he is on any level of Knicks roster when this season starts. I don't think he's on any NBA roster when the season starts. He is my worst fear for what could happen to Batum Dadiai. Is someone who's picked in the 20s in the first round, like both of them were.
That's a good. I didn't never think about it, but yeah, you're right.
Has the athleticism on paper, all the measurements, decent stats when they play professional or in college, and then never lives up to the positional archetype of what he is. I mean, every team is looking for more Marjan Beauchamps on paper. But when you have them on their roster and there's not a moment where he can stand out doing, as I said, the little things or in moments of supreme pressure, those are the type of guys that tend to be funneled out of the league very quickly and make a name for themselves in Europe. And I think that's where Beauchamp is. He's a former first-round pick with 6'7" measurements, around 200 pounds. He should be a better athletic tweener who can attack closeouts and pull up from three, but we haven't seen any of that in his career. And if the Milwaukee Bucks, who were trying to build a contender around Giannis, were not looking to keep him as a cheap option, I think that's a negative sign for his future and why the Knicks were able to pick him up off of the waiver. I think he's cooked after summer league, and I hope that his minutes and opportunities are given somewhere else, honestly.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And you bring up a good point with the Dottie and like the archetype and those type of guys. Those type of guys are always going to get opportunities. Like I won't be shocked if Beauchamp keeps getting summer league invites and him being a former first round pick, you're always going to get opportunities. But you could be right though. I don't have expectations for him. I understand why they gave him a shot because listen, why not? You got to fill out a summer league team. You never know. If he starts shooting, maybe. But I liked him coming out of the G League, but it just feels like, especially with the timeline of the Bucks, that he just, like you said, he didn't do the little things that showed out, and that's kind of why they gave up on him. And he's been bouncing around, and like I said, no real expectations of him, doing anything. But we'll see what happens to him.
It's also so much of the NBA and success, from my vantage point, is kind of luck and fit. Like, do you go to a team where your skill set can be maximized because what you need around you or next to you enhances the undeveloped parts of your game? And unfortunately, and this is not a knock to Jalen Brunson or Karl-Anthony Towns or Deuce McBride, but we don't have, in my opinion, an elite playmaker for others on this roster. If Marjan Beauchamp had went to Dallas during the Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving days, I think he would have seen a similar renaissance as Dante Exum did, who was out of the NBA, playing in Europe, came back, and now got picked up for another year by the Mavs because he did the little things. He played defense. He 50-50 balls. He became a solid playmaker for others. He kind of hit the open three. He started out hitting the open three. But those things, it's all about where you land and who's around you. I don't think this roster is set up for Beauchamp's strengths to be maximized and his weaknesses to be hidden. So that's just it's how it falls sometimes in terms of a domino. So I hope he gets picked up. I'm not rooting against the kid. I just don't think he has any future here with the Knicks.
No, I'm with you on that, man. Let's see what happens with him. All right, let's talk about some of the guys that we drafted and undrafted guy and that we have spoken a lot about. But let's talk about Muhammad Diawara. Like I said, another one of these guys, 6'8", 7'4" wingspan. We talked about him, a little bit in our previous pod. But what do you feel like? What do you feel like the expectations are for him? Have you done some more homework on him to get a better feel of him?
Yeah, man. Like we talked about before the pod started, I really hesitate to fake the funk ever and talk about a player that I only have YouTube highlights of, because the way that those YouTube videos are packaged, it's always with a bias. They're only showing, the full court dunk, the transition pull up three. It's rarely is it someone creating space or someone, attacking or close out with that really clever offensive awareness. And there's not enough tape out there, in my opinion.
Oh, there really is. There used to be a guy on YouTube who would clip every possession of every prospect. And I don't know where he went. He used to be my go-to guy. Every possession, good, bad, doesn't matter. He would clip every possession of each prospect. And I couldn't find that guy. So like I said, I'm with you. I didn't get too much other than hearing some things about, about him, but not much in film I got to see.
Yeah, there's a couple of things, that I can say I learned from the Tibbs era that are important. Don't be a turnover hub. Don't be the reason that, the Knicks might have 12 or 14 turnovers in a summer league game. Don't be the reason or lead the team in turnovers. Look for the open man. If you don't have, even if you're in one of your 5 or 6 elite shots within your player profile diet, even if you're there and you're like, this is my move, I can take this man off a dribble, but your teammate's open over there in the corner and you don't make the pass, don't be that guy too. Like, keep the ball moving, look for the high percentage shots, because when I taught the scouts and other media members, those are the things right now in Summer League the coaches and coaching staffs and GMs are looking for. Are they connective? Not are they elite in these 1-2 spots on the floor when they're wide open, but do they keep the ball moving, and do they have a mindset for finding the best high percentage shot? If he can do that, I think he has a chance to earn that two-way. Even if maybe he's outplayed on a one-on-one level by Beauchamp or somebody else, I think he will get the nod because they see him as an impactful player on the team perspective, not as an individual perspective.
Yeah, he's got those long arms on defense. Like I said, the wingspan helps on it. And he plays, from what I've seen, like he plays the passing lanes pretty well, which helps with that, his frame. And like I said, he has the French connection, with Pacome and now Yabusele, Gershon Yabusele, so maybe that definitely helps him, for opportunity. Like I said, the shot, from what I know, is not there. Offensively, I don't think we should expect much from other than just being, getting offensive rebounds, crashing the boards and rim running, pick and roll stuff, but nothing outside shot. He didn't shoot the free throw line really well. So, we'll see how he does. What about James Nagy? He's another man that's 6'11", 12'8" wingspan. We got him in the cat trade. We got his rights in the cat trade, because I think he got traded, from Charlotte to the Minnesota, I think, and that's when we got his rights. So any expectations of James Nagy?
I'm not too worried about how he plays in Summer League, because I think he's going to be a long-term project for Leon Rose regardless. I think they're going to find a way to stash him and be smart about it while maintaining salary cap flexibility, since we're so close to that second apron. I think he is probably the one I feel is strongest for getting a two-way contract, because you can't teach that size, wingspan. He's
a monster human, bro.
Dude, he is in some of the most elite shape of any player I've ever seen in my life. And
right?
with Mitchell Robinson as injury prone as he is, and us being kind of thin at a true center, I think he's going to be someone who's in our long-term plans as a backup possibility to eventually replace Mitch years down the road after we win a championship, hopefully, fingers crossed, or to impact as a third-string center immediately in that Jericho Sims role. So, yeah, again, it's like, how are your hands catching the ball in traffic and finishing around the rim? Like, how is your mobility jumping off of 2 feet in the dunker spot off of a seal and getting an easy dunk around the rim? Those things are important. Like, What is your passing like out of double teams to find ball handlers and shooters on the perimeter? The
Such
fundamentals.
for bigs,
Um,
man. Like,
yeah,
double team, like especially nowadays, if you can't pass out of a double team, it's going to be hard for you to play as a big because if they can't trust you, because you're going to get doubled, they can't trust you to pass. They, like you said, they don't want turnovers. We don't want turnovers. So that's such an underrated aspect of a big is how do you pass out of a double team? Do you get flustered? Do you get frustrated? Because if you want the ball in the post, you need to be able to be trusted. And if you
facts.
can't do that, then JB and Mikel, this guy, you're not going to get the ball from those guys.
I think so. Yeah, I think he could have a mid summer league. I think he's still probably a lock for a two-way contract just because of the upside potential and the understanding that he's still a raw prospect, but has unbelievable physical acumen that can make him impactful right away.
The ceiling is, we talk about how Cordy not having a high ceiling. Najee's ceiling is insane. Like if
Yes,
he
agreed.
figures it out, like if he's able to figure it out, like you could have something. And I said I'm not expecting much, but Mitch is unexpiring. So that could be like, hey man, maybe Mitch is, he has the injury history. Maybe we could let him go, and maybe Najee could be that guy. You never know. They've developed backup centers pretty well, second round centers, and they've done a good job with that. So we'll see with him. Let's talk about our guy, Mr. Dink.
Let's go.
A lot of people have been talking about, especially since we did the pod. It seems like a lot more people intrigued about Dink Pate, and obviously there's going to be people that are like, "Oh, we're talking about an undrafted guy," blah blah blah. But we're just giving information. We just want people to know more about who these players are. And like I said, when you were on the pod, we talked a lot. A lot about Dink being in the Dallas area. So, what are the expectations for Dink Pate? Well, what are you looking forward to, and what do you think he needs to do exactly to make sure he gets one of those two-way spots and be a part of this organization?
Those are great questions. I would say be effective off ball in the moments that he is paired with Tyler Kolek in the backcourt. Those are the ones on them. That's probably the single biggest move that I'm looking forward to seeing is how does he play alongside Tyler Kolek, both guarding the point of attack, but also being able to be effective running off ball. Like, can he be a catch and shoot option? I haven't seen that. There's no tape telling me that he can, but maybe with this team, with decent spacing, Netzer Kolek, he might be able to finally hit a three. So if he finishes a game 1 or 2 from the 3-point line, I'm gonna be ecstatic. Like, bro, just hit the three when it's open, and the play calls for you to be that bailout shot or maybe the second or third option within a set. But that's beautiful basketball. And then on the defensive end, keep your man in front of him. I think he's going to have a little bit of difficulty guarding some of the stronger wings. This is not the G League. This is not high school, which he's only 2 years removed from. I'm a little worried about him guarding in space with some of these really big 3s and 4s. Even though size is 6'7", 6'8", he tends to be able to guard down, not guard up. So I'm a little worried about that. I think it's point of attack. If he was guarding Kolek, I think he would lock up Kolek personally, just because of a lack of foot speed and lateral movement. But yeah, don't be a defensive liability. Be crisp in rotations and moving the ball. Don't try to over assert yourself offensively and do too much. Don't try to shoot too many threes and prove that you do have a shooter because you've been taking 1,000 shots in practice since you got picked up by the Knicks. So
how do you balance that? How do you think a player like that balances it? Because we all know he's fighting for a spot, right? He's an undrafted guy, so there's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that? All right, I want to show out because I want to show that I belong and I want to show that I can do all these things, but he also has to play within the team, within the team frame. So how does a guy balance that where you're trying to prove things, but you still got to play within the team, because the goal is still to win the game, right? You still want to win and show out and show that you're a team player, but you also want to be kind of selfish, but you're also dealing with other guys who are in the same boat. Like everyone's trying to grit those spots. So like, how do you have you talked to, like, do you know anyone that has been in that situations? Because I find that fascinating with Summer League is that everyone's trying to get maybe 1 or 2 spots. You got 10, 12 guys trying to fight for a couple spots. But yeah, you got to stay in team mode when you have to be selfish because you want that spot. I always find that fascinating with Summer League.
Great question. I have a compounded, complex answer to that. I'm talking to his pops consistently. He's been in the lab, really working on the jumper to show that that's something that shouldn't be a worry about in summer league. So he's definitely putting the reps. I would say that's his number one biggest weakness is he's not elite at reading the game, and he can get into ISO mode. I don't want to call it me mode, but attack mode recklessly. And we saw that a lot in the G League. I'm worried that if he takes that first three and it doesn't go down, even worse, it's short, it's an air ball, or it's a brick, or he doesn't hit the rim. I'm worried that he tries to do too much at that point and take over the game with his athleticism, which is going to lead to turnovers, and that's going to lead to sloppy play overall, because they're probably going to have him at the one or the two, which means he's going to be handling the ball a fair amount when his time is called. That's my concern. I hope that first shot he takes, whether it's a pull-up midi or a corner three, goes in so that he kind of maintains his semblance of flow and team perspective and doesn't go into a shell and silo himself.
Is that
off.
something you saw with him throughout
Yes.
his?
Yes.
That once the shot goes in, he's feeling good, but if it's not, he starts to do a lot of irrational basketball moves, and it gets sloppy.
It's a number one weakness that I've seen in his game. It's something that he absolutely has to clean up because, in my opinion, he's not really a point guard. He's a three. But the lack of strength and the lack of, I would say, fluidity with his body and ball handling and ball control and court vision makes him a overrated point of attack guard. He's really someone who should be on the wings, catching and shooting, catching and attacking closeouts, catching maybe 2 or 3 dribbles, creating space, pull-up shot, rather than leading the offense. But I think he's going to have the ball in his hands, doing some of that in summer league, and it's so much going to depend on confidence and perspective. And that if his pops, and his pops is a great dude, everyone around him, really solid people, his family. I hope that's what they're drilling in him the most is composure and poise and remembering it's not about the stats. It's about the effectiveness in the minutes that you're given. And if he can maintain that dichotomy of trying to prove himself with trying to fit in, I think he'll earn a two-way spot.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know, because it's like I said, I've always been fascinated with that process. Like, how does someone deal with that game? And I'm not a first round pick or even a second round. I'm undrafted. I'm fighting for I'm fighting for a spot. Like, so, but confidence is everything. And if he gets that first shot to go in, maybe that's a bonus. And we'll see how it is. I'm sure he's gonna be times we'll see him on the ball, we'll see him off ball, Kolek, see how he moves. So he's fascinating. I really think, I know it's an undrafted dude, and some people have, like I mentioned before, some people are like, well, why are you talking? I was like, but he's fascinating because the talent was not undrafted. The talent alone was a first round pick. That just on talent alone, it was first round pick worthy. So to get potentially a type of talent like that as an undrafted dude, that's you don't get that. So if we can, I trust that, especially with the new coaching staff, that we can figure, if we can get him in the lab, fix him up, get him, if get him on the rock, get him on the G League, and get him, with Diop and all them, and get him in the lab working, could have something,
I know that I might sound critical, or I might sound more critical than I do positive, but I am very optimistic on this kid. It's the reason I'm attaching my name so strongly to him, because I absolutely believe in him as a prospect, someone who's willing to put in the work to get better. And you saw that in the stats and splits from his first year with the Ignite to his second year in Metro City. You saw an increase in aggressiveness and an increase in asserting himself, especially because they took him off ball and they didn't have him bring the ball up anymore. We did that to Trey Burke in the Metro City team. So he had to be a little bit more of an explosive athlete in transition than having to set everybody up. But these players, when their biggest strength, this is just like holistically throughout my time watching ball, when a player's biggest strength is athleticism and they face a modern NBA, the league level defense, they tend to revert to their worst tendencies and overexert themselves. And that tends to lead to turnovers. And I have a feeling that the first 4 or 5 possessions, they're going to be hedging off of him pretty hard and let him take some open threes in the perimeter to see what he's able to give him. And he's got to shoot with confidence, because if that first one doesn't go, I'm gonna clench my ass and be like, this might be a rough night for my main man Dean Pate. But listen, I'm optimistic, and I think he's gonna show out through these 4 games.
I mean, this is the opportunity. So I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for him. You know, he's someone that I thought was a draftable player. And like I said, there's talent there. So, and we can use the athleticism. So, especially at
For
the
sure.
guard spot. So
For
that's
sure.
I'm looking forward. That he's one of the main guys I'm gonna be looking forward to. Who else? I mean, there's a couple other intriguing names that the Knicks, have on their G League roster. Who for you? Like I said, well, probably these guys aren't gonna make the team. But is there anyone else that the Knicks have on their summer league roster that you're kind of like, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued about this guy or these couple guys.
There's no one I think that can actually make the roster, but there is a theme that has came up that I not only find intriguing, but makes me very proud of where I grew up and where I'm from, which is the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Dink is the second player from the AAU team that I collaborate with, Urban DFW, to make the Knicks Summer League. The second was Ferran Hunt, who came during Jericho Sims' rookie year. Didn't make the team, but did play with the Summer League and play with the Westchester Knicks for a while. Not many AAU teams in the United States and say that have two players that have been picked up by the New York Knicks. The one that I assist with coaching and administration can, which I'm very proud of that. As well as there's two other players on the Knicks besides Dink that have DFW ties. You got Lance Ware, who played for my alma mater. I think he might be the first UTA player to be on an NBA Summer League team. He's a 6'9" forward from finished up in UTA for the Shorthorns. And then we also have Jamal Bay, who played for Bishop Gorman here in Dallas. So that's three DFW linked players that I'm excited to watch. I don't think that Ware and Bay will have any opportunity to make the team, but it is fascinating to see just how much of a basketball incubator North Texas has become for NBA talent at the lottery level, at the second round, at the undrafted, at the summer league. I mean, I'm telling you, man, Kate Cunningham was just a start for the type of talent that we're going to see coming out of DFW.
Yeah. No, and Where's kind of interesting. He's had people probably know him from his Kentucky days. And I think what did he go to Nova? That didn't really work out. Then he went to Arlington, right? UT Arlington.
Right.
You said that's your alma mater, right? You said
yes.
So and he played there and showed out. He's interesting. Like I said, I don't think he'll make the team, but he's got a nice frame, 6'9", 220, so he's interesting. But like I said, no one really. I know the Luka Scooter guys, people are fascinated with the name, but he's intriguing, Slovenian, 6'10", not the shooter people may think, still inconsistent shooter, but that's an intriguing guy. If he can hit the shot, he could be intriguing, but nobody really else that I expect much from. But do you think we'll see any implements of Mike Brown's system at all?
Yes, for sure. I think you're going to see a lot of movement, a lot of cutting. I think you're going to see a lot of small to small screens. I think you're going to see a re-emphasis for lobs to get guys opportunities around the rim. I think that's going to be something that Mike Brown's going to want to implement with this team specifically. He wants to increase space. We heard him in his opening presser. That's going to be something he wants to add to our roster. The Knicks have been in the bottom of pace under Tom Thibodeau. And one of the things that you can get easy buckets from that is finishing around the rim, specifically when it's assisted on in a lob capacity. So I think Tyler Kolek is really going to be looking as a playmaker, more as a scorer this summer league opposed to last. And yeah, just seeing who connects no matter who they share the floor with. The guys who only thrive with last year's rookies, I think that's going to matter less than the guys who are plug and play, no matter who's in the system. They're moving off ball, they're cutting, they're setting screens off ball. Those are the ones I think who are going to have the eye of a coaching staff when it's being considered on who gets a two-way and who's invited to the Westchester Knicks once the season starts.
No, I agree. So I'm looking forward to today. It's going to be interesting to see what we see exactly, offensively, see who's made the progressions that we see. And because these guys are potentially be very vital pieces to maybe a championship caliber team. So this is big. This is big for our guys to see what they do. But Lee, appreciate you again for coming on, man. It's always good talking hoop with you. You are a professional ball knower, so always a pleasure talking hoop with you, man.
I appreciate you, man. It looks like I froze up on. Oh, there I am.
Oh, you're good.
I was stuck in the Matrix for a moment. Sorry, I was having flashbacks. 1999. Yeah, man. Glad to be on share the pod with you again. You're someone I love talking ball with, both on Twitter and on the podcast. Got to have you on the KOT show soon, maybe for the season.
Bro.
Would love to have you chop it up with the whole team. And yeah, man, it's always a blessing to be able not just to spread, my love for the game, but also what Nick the Time show is doing. We're going to be live streaming the summer league. Me, be the motivator, and Fritz, the mod god, Fifth Beetle, are going to be talking through a game, cracking jokes, giving our X and O analysis while the first summer league game is going on. So catch us on playback and YouTube.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll be tapped in. I'll be watching before I head into work tonight. But I always like talking to you because you like I said, I like talking to people who just understand and love hoop, and you learn. This is how I've learned. It's crazy because when I first started this podcast journey 5 years ago, I thought I knew ball. And then when I started to dive in and started to get people on my podcast, started building up the brand, I realized, oh man, I don't know nothing about ball, bro. I don't know anything. But that was good. I was happy. I was like, okay. And I learned, and that's, I would be like, okay, I never saw basketball from that aspect. And we've done 2 shows, and I've learned a lot. In just these 2 shows with you, I've learned a lot. And just from talking to you, seeing how you, elaborate your basketball knowledge on Twitter, which could sometimes be misconstrued at times, with people, right? You take things out of context, but I always feel like you do a good job of, putting it out there, in such, you only got so many, I know you can have more characters now on Twitter, but, it's sometimes hard to, express, but you do a good job of that. And that's why I always respected you. And that's why, I've had you on twice in just 2 weeks, because I love getting to know more about how your brain works and how you see the game, because maybe that could help me see some things differently. Maybe I didn't see. So, and I've learned a lot just in 2 episodes and just following you the last few months that I have. So, and checking out your pods on Nick of Time. You guys do a good job. So, keep up the good work, my guy.
I appreciate you, man. Yeah, I kind of have a unique background to anyone else in Nick's Twitter. Well, one part's not unique. I definitely grew up as a hood rat trying to navigate the grimy streets of South Dallas. But my interests outside of hoops and initially were plays and poetry, musicals, novels, theater. It wasn't really sports. Once I got into basketball, I just I delved in it more from like an autobiographical point of view, where I was interested in like the players and the history of teams. I can still name like almost every roster since 2000. But once I got on Nick the Time show, and I had to start bringing my point of view against Ebony, who played D1 ball, against Be the Motivator, who played AAU ball, against Ryan and Jay, who still played pickup ball, I had to really increase my X and O's knowledge. And I did so not just on my own independent research, but also watching as much basketball as I possibly could. Getting involved in AAU, going to the high school circuit and watching high school games, watching nonstop all NBA games every day. I don't have a partner or kids or anything like that. I'm not married. So I spend 80% of my free time watching hoops and the other 20% reading novels. So I just absorb a game as much as I can. And I've learned so much since joining the podcast. So it's always a pleasure and a joy, honestly, to be able to share what I've learned with others who care about the game as much as me.
No, yeah, especially when you're in that, you just mentioned you're surrounded by people who play D1 ball, some type of professional ball. You got to really up your game, especially if you play today, right? And
yeah,
when you said that, I did the same thing too. I had to really up my knowledge to really, if I want to be in the room with these people, I got to really understand the game,
Yeah, man, that first season on KOT, I got roasted and put to the grinder and crossed over and fell on my ass many times, talking out of turn and saying things are just statistically, factually wrong. And I learned from those. I wasn't like, well, let me just double down on a bad take. Let me really learn why I was wrong and what makes it a wrong take. Exactly. And that level of studying and humility goes a long way in truly understanding the game on a higher level. And I have a long ways to go. And it's one of my favorite things about basketball is you never are 100% finished. Like there's always something, a new wrinkle, a new element to learn about the game and to love it more.
That you hit it on the head, man. Like I remember just the first couple of times I started potting or I got into bigger platforms. Like when I started doing KFTV, I would read the comment section. I would have, I'll be live and I'll be reading them like, oh man, I got to up. I'm repeating words or I'm saying certain phrases multiple times. And I really had to up it. Because if I wanted to stay on that level, I gotta get better,
Right.
get better. And eventually I learned. And then like you got the trust that you could, I hosted a Knicks fan TV show on a big platform like that. Like like, I was CP for one day, So when you get to those like you got to really up your game and like
That's dope.
it's you
That's
just
dope,
getting
man.
that, just keep getting better and better. And like I said, it happened right in the beginning. Like they said, you just mentioned like you going out of turn and you didn't know when to say what, but over time you learn and you want to learn. It's not just you want to learn. You want, okay, how do I, and you take criticism. Like sometimes taking criticism, people take it the wrong way. Like, oh man, what are you talking? Sometimes you need the criticism. Like, oh no, bro, you saying this too much. Like rephrase that. Don't say the uhs and the dead space, and that's how you get back. I tell people all that time, you just repetition, take notes. If people are take the criticism well, learn from it and apply it. And then that's how you get your craft better. And then you can get to a level. Everyone's like, oh, how do I get to your level, bro? It's like, man, just
Yep.
work the criticism well, understood, keep watching all these shows, know how to learn the transitions, all these take stop the uhs and all that, and you'll be all right, But
The best piece of advice that I was ever given, and that I give to anyone who is trying to break into, and this isn't just basketball podcasting, but podcasting in general, where especially where you are the main person giving dialogue, is to read poetry out loud. And I'm not talking about rhythmic or slam poetry. I'm talking about go to your local half price books or discount bookstore, go buy T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland or Boots and read one of those long 15 to 20 page poems out loud. Don't memorize it. Read it out loud where you're using words you don't know, which then forces you to research what those words mean. Now you add that word to the vocabulary and you already have a reference point of speaking it out loud with confidence. You can talk about anything, anywhere with anyone, and have that confidence to exhort your voice into the public sphere with an ability of knowledge and assurance. That to me is the best piece of advice. And I started doing that. I've always been a reader, but I grew up with really heavy speech impediments. No one could understand what I was saying until I was about 11 or 12. I went all through high school in speech, trying to have better diction and better pronunciation. When I started reading poetry out loud, specifically complicated, complex, heady shit like T.S. Eliot, nothing improved my way of speaking and way of pronunciation better than that. Because you're talking about that, those poems are about life and death, about the human experiment and the human experience. And if you can master that, bro, hoops is secondary, man.
No, 100%, man, 100%, man. But like I said, man, love talking hoop with you, brother. Always a pleasure. We'll see how these baby Knicks, look tonight versus the Detroit Pistons, and then I think they play Sunday, right, against the Celtics.
Yeah,
I believe.
Sunday. Yeah.
So we'll see how they look. Make
Oh,
sure to
baby.
let's go
Let's
Knicks. Excited about seeing basketball again, and we'll see how these teams look. Lee, before we go, tell the people where they can find you. Any progress you got coming up? Floor is yours.
Man, been throwing in a lot of effort and utility with the Nick of Time Substack. You can just Google Substack Lee Escobedo or Substack Nick of Time, and you will see the articles I've been writing. Just trying to get breakdowns of what's happening with the Knicks, X and O's, get really lean to basketball acumen, play calling, and defining sets. Really trying to get people a dictionary or a very elementary idea of what these things mean so that they can further their vocabulary and understanding of the game. Also have an article on the social impact and on the court impact of Angel Reese for Bleacher Report that will drop next week, as well as a long essay on the Knicks for The Guardian that will also release in 2 weeks. So lots of writing being done. You can catch me on Twitter at _Lee Escobedo, LeeEscobedo, or even at Time Show, The Nick of Time Show on Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. And we'll be live streamed today on Playback and YouTube.
There we go. Make sure to follow my guy, because if you want to learn more about ball, you want to learn more about Dink Pate, go follow my guy. He really is a good source of hoop knowledge if you want to just get to learn the game a little bit more. But you can follow me at Off the Ball Pod. Make sure to check out the last show I just did with my guy Dexter Henry. Make sure to check me out. I will be on his show this Sunday. It airs on Monday, so check that out. We'll be breaking down the Knicks Summer League games, and see how the young kids are looking, see what we like, what we didn't like. So make sure to check that out Follow me Off the Ball Pod. Like, subscribe on the YouTube channel. Thanks to this man right here because the YouTube's been doing real good since he was on the episode last. So we'll continue to grow the YouTube channel, trying to get to that 1K mark, hopefully, soon. Cross fingers. Let's hope. I think we should get there at this rate. But on that note, Lee, you be good. On that one, be safe, be well. Everyone, take care. Peace out.
Start spreading the news.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
New York, I love you. I love New York.